Hello and welcome to another episode of Golden Truths, an Umineko podcast, a podcast about Umineko. The second episode of Golden Truths. I don't care what the episode counter on your podcast catcher may or may not say, this is the second episode. I am Jennifer Booher, host and witch of communication. Joining me this week, this month, whenever we're releasing these, are Annabelle Barsky.
Hi.
Isabelle Boyer.
Hi, everyone calls me Izzy.
And Matthew Winter.
Hey.
We are absent one Grace Hobson this time, but our conversations will still be graced with her presence. How do we feel about that one?
Did you
really
hear that?
Great, it sounds like.
Hey,
yeah,
can
I
we
heard
start
you.
working on this fucking episode?
Wait,
Did you hear that?
what's wrong?
Goofing around.
This is the part
Jenn.
of the episode where
Jenn.
we all like just kind of vibe out for a little bit to bring the listener into our world before we kick
Jenn,
things
I
off.
want you to be proud of me. I didn't plug my Twitch this time.
You mean
with
your Twitch
plugging?
Izzy time stream?
The plug is at the end. We all know this.
Yeah, this is not the time to mention twitch.tv/Izzy time stream.
Motherfuckers. Well, it sounds like everyone's feeling very lively today, so we will go ahead and get right into our discussion.
Happy
Chow,
Mario Day.
whoosh, wow, boom. There's a transition happening now, probably. I probably didn't just leave that in.
No, we gotta leave that in.
Turn of the Golden Witch, released originally on December 31st, 2007 at Comiket 73 and released officially worldwide on July 8th, 2016 as part of the question arcs, just like the last episode. I will get used to me saying that because that continues to be true. Turn of the Golden Witch opens on a series of vignettes from the years leading up to 1986, where servants Shannon and Kanon wrestle with the tension between their status as furniture serving the Ushiramiya family and their budding relationships with George and Jessica Ushiramiya themselves. The Golden Witch Beatrice appears before the servants, offering to help them transcend their furniture-hood and attain that one single element of humanity, but not without striking a deal first. Meanwhile, in 1986, the Ushiramiya family conference and the mysterious killings happened once more, but with slight differences from last game, including glowing energy swords, demonic goat servants, and the appearance of Beatrice as a true 19th person. When Rosa survives the first Twilight, she takes on the mantle of acting head and attempts to lead the family, or at least her own child, safely through the events of October the 5th. While in a world above the game board, Battler and Beatrice argue about the truth behind Beatrice's bloody game. Just like last time, the game ends when the clock strikes midnight before the witch can be stopped. Beatrice's resurrection succeeds, the family is torn to shreds, and the doors to the Golden Land are opened once more. Beyond the game board, despite being so thoroughly crushed by his opponent, Battler swears to fight Beatrice again and again until he can fully deny her existence. Beatrice cackles and begins preparations for the next game. What did everybody think about this one? Yeah, right?
Well done. First, good job.
Wow, yeah, one take. All one take.
Good job. We love it. As in, what did we think about how you read it, or how we think about the episode?
Well, I'm not
Yeah,
asking
well,
you.
yeah. Do you want notes?
Can I get some notes? Yeah, I thought I would get kind of lost, kind of went a little off voice there. But no, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about
I would definitely change thoroughly crushed to suffered the agony of defeat because of her weird foot thing. But that's just me.
Okay, is that the kind of energy we're bringing to this one?
This fucking ep was gross.
Mm-hmm.
How's that?
It was a lot more. It was a lot.
Well,
it was a lot more
unfortunately-
graphic.
mhm.
Ryukishi07 really fucking reveled in making us read gross shit.
A lot more gore and guts and gooey gunk.
Yeah. Like at the end I was like, it's hard for me to read this.
Oh yeah, especially the very end with all the buffet and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, my general vibes from this one were, wow, we spent a very, very small amount of the total time here with Battler himself. And it's super weird. Like, we had this huge, long prologue before everything, but then once we actually hit, the island, we race through everything on that actual island. And even then, when we were on there, we spent barely any time with Battler himself.
Yeah, totally, because Battler in this game, he kind of stops. I mean, he kind of takes on a different role. Like, we'll get into that when we actually discuss things, but he stops being just a guy wandering around and being like, buh, I don't know. And he starts being a guy wandering around going, buh, I don't know, directly to the witch he's trying to deny, which is a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I thought it was grosser and sadder in every way. So when we were recording last time, I was noting, at least briefly, that the part that I really liked was the little moments of tenderness and how beautiful the prose was. And this time it was just the murders, disgusting. The mystery solving, total failure. The momming, despicable.
Bad
the
momming.
Fucking ending, the crunching, unnecessary. I was like, oh. And don't get me wrong, it was so engaging for that reason, but it really it was gross is really, I think, a great word for the feeling.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we mentioned this last time, but each episode comes with a little. It's the opposite of an epitaph, a protaph, like a little like bit of text when you select it on the main menu. That's like, welcome back. The Golden Witch is happy to accept you into her game once more. And each one has like a little difficulty rating, and the difficulty rating I don't remember exactly, but is something like insane, like insurmountable or something.
It's extreme, if I recall.
Yeah, the difficulty is extreme. The witch intends to make you surrender all at once, and Beatrice really goes for it in this one. The episode opens on, like I said, these little vignettes, these kind of like, you might almost think about them as sort of prologue chapters to the actual conference that happen kind of in the year sort of leading up to 1986, October 1986, where we learn a lot more about the kids of the Ushiramiya family, namely George and Jessica and Shannon and Kanon, and kind of the romantic entanglements that they have, or try very desperately not to have in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay?
We'll find out.
You're humming a lot.
There's a lot.
It's all about relationships. The opening of the game in a. I think it's weird that the whole game is about just plain old murder and plain old tricks, and we're talking about whether magic is real or not. But at the heart of it is all these intricate relationships, and those aren't even at the core of the murder. Well, except for the one sort of ongoing relationship.
Right. Yeah, right. Sure. Well, it's interesting because it's not just, I mean, the theme of relationships, I mean, is throughout all of it, but especially this game, with Rosa, who we will get to. We'll have a whole fucking jam session about Rosa in this game. But yeah, relationships are so present through all of this, the way characters. So the episode opens on a date between Shannon and George, wearing some of the worst clothing that anyone has ever worn. Shannon, I love you, girl, but what is this brown frilly? What is the hat? It's so very much, ma'am.
It is my favorite kind of art, where the person who made the visual novel went, I'm not redrawing her fucking hair. We're making a hat bigger than her hair.
It's like clown shoes, but for her head. It's just the insight we get into Shannon and George's relationship through the aquarium date that they're both on at the start of the novel, and also just throughout, is really interesting.
Childish,
yeah. Well, the thing I'm referencing is, of course, the fact that Shannon is 16 years old and George is 23. Like, there's a lot of very interesting writing going on here in terms of, like, George as someone who wields power in the relationship as, like, part of the family that Shannon is working for, and how does that affect their dynamic, and how do they rise above that, or, how does George play on that? And there's a lot of interesting conversations to have there, but, I don't want to belabor this too much, but the fact that Shannon is 16 really, like we said last time, again, that's why I don't want to get into this too much, because I feel like we had this conversation last time, but it's just casts a real deathly pallor over this entire part of the book.
Yes.
So, not setting that aside, but accepting that as just true, the ways that relationship, as George as the person who is in control and Shannon as the person who is like, receptive to George, is played with in an interesting way, I think, when I can think of a few particular scenes where this is true, namely the gazebo scene where George proposes to Shannon. In episode 1, this is a scene where George is like really leading the conversation, like, all of the, oh, Sayo, it's an order. You have to put this ring on, like that, the whole kit and caboodle. But this time, like, we get these scenes leading up to it where we see George in the airport bathroom before coming to Rakenjima, and he's like really nervously trying to figure out, like, oh, how should I pop the question to Shannon? Like, I should give it to her, but what if she's too flustered? I mean, I could tell her it's an order, but there has to be room for her to express her free will, or it would be kind of, and we see that in the gazebo scene too, where Shannon, who, is at her own point in her journey vis-a-vis being furniture, her relationship with Beatrice is at a very particular point right then. And she has this kind of like, I don't know, calm collectedness, or sort of, you see her as not the
confident one.
Yeah, totally. As the person who knows exactly what she wants and knows exactly what she's going to do to get it, which I think is a really interesting contrast to how they're portrayed in the first book and parts of the second book too.
To me, that's all very good. But to me, the date scene is like extra funny because it really underlines what a boring couple they are.
They really are.
Wow.
Like, again, understanding the complexities of the power dynamics of their relationship, and also the gross is of the power dynamic of their relationship. I'm just thinking of the moment where they're talking about, like, haha, gotta watch your weight when you eating at the buffet, and George is like, shouldn't you as a lady eat a little less? And she's like, oh my tee. And I'm like, God, I love WandaVision or whatever the fuck this is. Like, I love 30s sitcom. Like, what am I looking at?
Like, the idyllicness, like the idyllic heterosexuality in their relationship is just cloying to a fault. I totally agree.
Like, I love where the power dynamic takes them, and where I do love that is where we see Shannon's confidence bloom and evolve into, like, fully formed, self-actualization, which is amazing and cool, and is even cooler later on when she starts wielding magic because of it. But, like, couldn't you have made the thing that makes her, like, so excited and in love a little more believable? Is that what she's so excited about? Is that
like it felt like George wanted somebody to fit a specific mold for a family, and was like, Shannon seems to be chill with this.
Well, I think the thing that we get is that Shannon is also looking for someone to fit a particular mold for what she wants, which is, again, that kind of family, like, very family oriented, like, maybe not man's man, but the cloying heterosexuality is really the only word I can come up with for the dynamic, like the kind of interpersonal, like, relationship dynamic between these two, because it really is, George talks about, like, oh, I want to grow old and see my kids and my grandkids running around on my porch, and I want to hold my wife's hand right next to her. I'm going into the Kansai, that's Hideyoshi, but it's just, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But there is a reciprocity to the relationship. I truly don't think that it is just Shannon going along with what George wants. I think it is just, and then this can go up to a higher level where we talk about the writing, where Ryukishi has written, like, the most het couple in the world. Mm-hmm. But there's the George gets a bad rap, and he should, because he sucks. But I I truly don't think that Ryukishi is, at least purposefully, writing him as some sort of predator.
No. Shannon is frickin' swept off her feet by the dude in the frickin' sleeveless ass, whatever, dog tags t-shirt, telling her to not eat too much salad at the aquarium
well, he
bar.
Opens his
he's like, boy, I'd love
maw.
to eat this shark. And she's like, oh god, I can't not marry him.
I can't not fuck him.
Oh, we should not.
I did my best.
We should not be remiss how when Shannon goes to. So this part of the book happens from a first-person perspective from George, and so when Shannon goes to feed George like the cake or whatever it is,
oh my god.
Like, the JPEG of her sprite blows up and like fills the entire screen so that you see like her chin and her tits, and it's like, oh, here comes the choo-choo train.
Hang on. I'm
insane.
stealing this train out from under you so I can continue along as you tell the story of George opening his horrible maw to do something besides talking. He is eating this terrible thing, and he's talking about, oh, it's extra good because it's being fed to me. And then he pauses and thinks to himself, my bullies when I was a kid were fucking right. This rules.
Yeah. Oh well. Yep. Yeah. You're
yeah,
right. I mean,
that's right. He did do that. He was like, I understand what the bullies were thinking now. Now I am in the one in
totally does
control.
do that.
Oh my god, I forgot.
I don't be mistaken that when I say I don't think George is written as a predator, I do think that Ryukishi, as I think a pretty competent writer who understands the existence of interpersonal power dynamics, I think he knows that this is some, at bare minimum, slightly fraught territory. And I think he is interested in like kind of getting at that as the series goes on. Yeah, George sucks.
George is such a freak.
George is George.
George is simply
Every
George.
day I look into the mirror and ask myself, am I becoming more like George by doing what I'm doing in my life? And then I try to do the opposite of that.
It's really, we all have to take stock of ourselves and say, in what ways am I being like George Shiromiya, and how can I deviate from those ways as far as possible every single day?
I don't want to jump around too much in the Witch of Communications game plan here. I'm just a piece on your board, Jen, but I do, before I forget, I just want to say that I feel like the only thing that George really does in this whole fucking Witches game that is of any consequence is when he's like, oh, I'm gonna stay with Shannon because she's my wife, send me out too. And then he fucking like orders everyone around. It's like all the servants were brighter and better, their titties were bigger and their fists were faster, and it's like George whips them into shape. It's like, stop, this is like George wrote this part about himself dead in the Golden Land. He's like, oh my god, Pino, you gotta make me sexier, you gotta yeah, my suit was crisp,
you could see my massive 13-inch dong through my pants.
Yes, through my pant leg.
Oh god,
I punched the door clean down with it. Yeah, it's like, okay, like he doesn't even like break the door down or whatever. He's like, Gohda, you see your impressive physique. It's like, okay, this all sucks. Like, I like even when he is being triumphant or is supposed to be like involved in the game for a moment, he's literally, the best thing he has to offer is that he's close to Shannon. That is the nicest thing I can say to him.
Yeah, pretty much. George's superpower is to see the worth in Gohda, and I think that's just really inspiring.
Turn of the Golden Witch.
Gohda's okay. We brought up Gohda. I just want to say,
no, wait.
We'll sprinkle some Gohda in here.
I like Gohda now.
I hate you now.
I'm sorry. He's no longer the worst because George is the worst.
Well,
yeah.
George is. I have a ranking. I have a power ranking of the worst characters.
Yeah,
power
we can
levels.
get into that later.
Well, we'll rank every single Umineko character.
Yeah, I'll pull up a tier.
At the end of the whole podcast.
I would love to do that. I'm gonna say it right now. I have a feeling that Kraus is gonna make a late game play to shoot up that list. I just have a feeling.
Kraus is the late game. Kraus is gonna really come around. Wait until you see what cockamamie scheme he comes up with next. Oh god. So that's Shannon and George, and they have their whole thing, and it develops, and there's, maybe there's more that we can say about that, maybe, if it comes up. But let's move on to the next unhappy couple at the start of this book, which is Kanon and Jessica.
So these two have a much less well-developed relationship in terms of like time and them understanding the feelings for each other. Because like Shannon and George, they are like, oh, I know exactly what we want with each other. We be thirsty. But Shannon is like, man, I want Kanon. And Kanon is like, I'm not allowed to want anything. Ugh.
Yeah, well, the contrast between Shannon and Kanon is really interesting. Kanon, yeah, is like, again, everyone's favorite cisgender man. Kanon Umineko has a lot on his plate in this episode, and he just really... Kanon is full repression to me. Like, yeah. It is fully about being furniture, which again we will get to, but the amount that Kanon is just like, yeah, I'm just furniture, and that doesn't like that has no problem at all to me. I'm just like fully cool with that. I'm fully accepting of that, and I'm just going to ruin like my whole steez with this Genki tomboy girl because we're just furniture, man. I mean, he's much more fucked up about it. It is
so fascinating to me how he is the most incredible ideal of someone who has been working retail for 15 years.
He really is.
Oh my god, like a Walmart with fucking
he's
ass.
fucking Burger Pants.
He's a little bit of a Burger Pants from Undertale, you're right.
Oh, I don't like that.
Kanon kind of enters into the narrative when Natsui orders Shannon, who is like all twisted up about George, to like clean some whole room that she hadn't cleaned especially well. And Kanon like comes out of a shadow after Natsui walks off, and he's like, yeah, fuck that bitch. And Shannon's like, no, Kanon, we can't talk about people like that. And Kanon's like, yeah, fuck her. He's just like a big ball of like every horrible little thought that he has ever had. I love him so much.
For someone who doesn't fucking exist, Kanon.
It's true. Yeah,
I'm furniture, but fuck her.
Well, so yeah, I don't know that we can really talk about Kanon and therefore Kanon and Jessica without getting into the furniture thing. Furniture is a term that shows up. It showed up last time. It showed up in Legend a few times here and there, but it really gets expanded on here.
Does it?
Yeah, it gets expanded on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Furniture's got way more going on with it.
Well, why don't you tell me what you got out of it then, Izzy?
Okay. We're allowed to jump around, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Please, like drag
furniture
from wherever.
Does magic.
Okay, furniture does. Step one, furniture does do magic.
That just one new thing.
That's just one new fucking thing. Okay, if you read the tips that you get post game, it goes over how Kinzo fucking created them. And how Beatrice created her furniture. Like, what the fuck? Oh my god.
I mean, they didn't but go off, I guess.
Okay.
Right, which side are you on here, Izzy?
Okay, the side I'm on is that Kinzo created them in the fact that he put them through enough, like, emotional turmoil to make them believe that kind of bullshit. Regardless about whether or not they actually do magic. Because they don't. Because magic is real, but isn't being used in this sense.
Okay.
I'm gonna destroy you.
It's an interesting position.
It is my interesting position. I'm gonna stick to it because magic is definitely real, but this entire game has nothing to do with magic.
Well, I think you're hitting on something that's pretty prescient. Is that there is this like much like the rest of this game, there is this sense in which furniture is like this magical term that you are made by someone else, and it allows you to summon sick energy barriers. But that part doesn't really come up in the beginning of the book. Furniture is this other thing that's like it's like related to being a servant, but not entirely. Like the way that furniture comes up, most notably, is that Beatrice says that furniture doesn't have a soul, and that furniture can't love. Or rather, I think that the thing that becomes obvious through Shannon and George and Kanon and Jessica is not that they can't love, but really that they shouldn't love, that they're not allowed to love, which is really, a mystery right now. It's not really clear what that is or what that's about, but such is the nature of a mystery novel.
Which is why I feel like we still have, there's so much we still have not learned. Okay, yes, it did blow my mind when Homeboy pulled out a beautiful energy sword and zip zap zopped around the room, but I feel like the concept beyond that is actually not explained at all, because Shannon does love and does also have magic powers, so that's breaking the cardinal rule of furniture is don't be a person or else you lose your magic power. Like we don't know what any of that means, nor do we know the origins of it, which is bothering me. This is such a huge question for me, because this is like half of what's going on. Half of it is Beatrice's magic universe, where she summons goat people and titty demons to do her bidding and calls them furniture, and they respond to her because they're furniture, and they have sick magic powers because they're furniture, and depending on how furniture they are, TM, they are stronger. The titty demons are stronger than the goats. Why is that? We don't know. And the other half is these servants at this shitty rich people house who actually are the sickest people in the whole house. Like what? Like, for that being the crux of this story, we don't know anything about it. I want to know so bad. So bad.
Yeah, like, we have all of these, like, facts or maybe assumptions, like, to just put it into an even vaguer realm of truth, that, like, to be furniture is not to be human, is to be not human. To be furniture is to not be a human. To be furniture is to be incapable of love or not allowed to love. To be furniture is to not have a soul, whatever that means. Souls exist here. There's whatever being furniture is, the way it ends up mattering is it affects Kanon and Shannon's ability. If it is just some belief, it still affects their ability to have these relationships with the people they care about. Shannon, is able to kind of rise above it through the strength of her love for George and, like, how sure she is of his resolve, which strengthens her own resolve, et cetera, et cetera. But Kanon is just, maybe because he's such a more cynical, dour kind of person, when Jessica invites Kanon to her fucking Japanese school festival episode, and she sings a Toho song, which rules. Yes. Kanon, like, if Shannon and George have the gazebo scene, where their love, kind of becomes real for each other, Kanon and Jessica have the rose garden scene, where Jessica, like, really reaches out to Kanon and says all of this shit, some of my favorite stuff in this entire episode. There's a lot of talk about being able to see stuff, in single quotes, what is to be seen and what it is to see and what allows you to see. When Kanon is at the school festival and he's watching Jessica up on stage, basically he says, is this something that I could not see on Rokkenjima? Is this a part of Jessica? This Jessica that isn't the, failing at being formal, next family head, kind of a disappointment to her family, but this Jessica who is really popular at school, singing this cool rock song and, like, hyping up the crowd, like, this kind of dual nature of Jessica, this other side of Jessica that he could not see before. And then, of course, Jessica tries to parlay that in the Rose Garden and says, well, I have Jessie. I'm Jessica here, but at school, I'm Jessie-sama. And I can be a different person there. And me being a different person there allows me to be the person I am here better. And maybe that could be, like, for you, Kanon, maybe you just need to invent a secret self inside of yourself who can be...
I like to think that it's just so hard.
It's overwhelming.
So hard to see Kanon pulling so tightly on the drawstrings of her hoodie. That is...
For real? Okay, yes. We talked about Shannon and George's outfit. Jessica doesn't get a new outfit, but Kanon does, and it is the most, like, do not look at any part of my body. I'm no one. I am wearing a big black paper bag, so no one can see me. It's
Sasuke.
Can I correct you for a second? He is Sasuke, isn't he? Jessica does get a new outfit, though.
Does she? Oh, yeah, right, in the CG.
Because
like
she's Reimu. Or
no,
Marissa.
I thought she was Marissa.
Yeah, she's Marissa.
I don't fucking know Tohos.
Well, I don't either.
You said that with such confidence.
Yeah, that's because I wanted to sound cool.
Anyway, so Jessie puts her hand on Kanon and says, "I wish that you were Jessie's girl," and we continued on.
It literally, and whether Ryukishi knows he wrote it or not, this is a scene that is very near and dear to my heart as a trans woman. It's
and then
poor
Kanon,
Kanon,
as anyone would, comes and goes, actually, you need to learn about the local flightless ducks.
Kanon just represses further and starts listing off duck facts. It's like, if you're a swan who can fly anywhere she wants, I'm just a duck. I'm like a lame duck. I can't even fly. And Jessica's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they have a big fucking fight, and it all falls apart, and it's very sad.
Where did Kanon learn about ducks?
Where did Kanon learn about ducks? Well, maybe over at Fukuin they had like a duck picture book, and that's the only thing Kanon ever read.
The Ugly Duckling Who Also Sucked.
Yeah.
A book for Kanon.
A book for and about Kanon. Well, this, to dial in a little closer, this is something that came up in the first episode around Maria, but this is something that's continuing to come up here around Kanon and Jessica specifically, but I think we see it through all of the major characters this time. This idea of there's the presentational self, there's the self that you show to the world, and there's the self that you are in particular spaces, and then there's another self. There's the hidden self, or the self that allows you to be that other self, the secondary self. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to avoid saying the false self and the true self, which I think is how the story positions it, but I'm trying to find some other language. But we see this, Shannon has her two sides, George has his two sides, Jessica and Kanon, obviously, well, Kanon, he tries not to have another side, and that's part of his whole undoing. A lot in this book that's about who are you around which people.
Even with Battler, we get a little taste of that, where it's like he is putting out the persona of, I'm going to deny you, I am a boisterous, ridiculous asshole, and that's what I am, and that's how I like to be. But then when you get down to the core of who he is and why he's like that, it's because he doesn't want to believe that anyone that he cares about is a bad person. And because he holds that belief so unshakably, that's why he can be so boisterous and loud.
Battler's so good.
Battler is so good.
Battler is so sad
Battler
in this episode.
slept through half of the fucking episode.
I fucking knew that I was going to be the only one of us to be a fucking Battler stan. I'm going to kick your all's asses.
Are you
that's
kidding me?
true.
I love Battler. I was assigned Battler in the last episode, so I have to keep saying he's cool.
Battler would call himself cool.
Battler thinks he's the coolest guy, or well, he tries to tell everyone that he's the coolest guy ever. I feel like he's, despite how much of a dumbass he is, and he is a dumbass. Like you say, Matt, there is that very earnest and very direct and very like pure core of him that allows him to be this person that he is. And so like I said last time, I think that theme of the hidden self is really potent when you put it into a mystery story or something, again, that purports, that dresses itself up as a mystery story and is clearly, in some respect, a mystery story. It's very interesting. And it is difficult to talk about right now because we're only 2 books in.
I have so much to talk about that you're just going to have to kind of go, yep.
That's the experience. God. The last thing before we get to the other kind of major sphere of this story, I want to talk a little bit about the relationship between Shannon and Kanon and what's this? Beatrice?
She's real.
Beatrice.
Yay.
Okay.
Even before the meetup, she's real.
Mm-hmm. Beatrice shows up all the way through these scenes with George and Jessica, with Shannon and Kanon, I should say, who are really the primary parts of these scenes. Beatrice is the person who allows Kanon, and by extension, who allows Shannon. God, these 2 fucking motherfuckers and their stupid fucking names.
I wonder if there's a reason for that.
Nah.
There's also that third one that we hear a little bit about, like Lan.
Yeah, Lunan. It comes up very quickly. Well, they're both from the same orphanage. They have the same name. It's a whole. There are other people with the on character. We've said all that before. But Beatrice, one, exists and talks to Shannon and Kanon all the way through the lead up to the actual day of October the 4th, and is the person responsible, or so she claims, for Shannon and by extension Kanon to have these relationships that they have with their or don't have in Kanon's case again, their respective partners. When she gives Shannon this magic brooch, shaped like a golden butterfly, of course, because Beatrice is nothing if not conceited, which holds a certain magical power, and Shannon is very adamant about this to George during that first aquarium date, that it is real magic that brought them together. We get to see so much of Beatrice in this starting section. A lot of it is, to go back to the language of the presentational and the hidden self, a lot of it is this like very refined, ladylike, the witch of the portrait, the Ushiramiya family alchemist who enjoys the finer things in life and speaks with a lot of flourish and so on and so forth.
And the other Beatrice likes to eat cookie.
The other Beatrice loves to eat cookie. We get Shannon takes Beatrice on a little picnic on the beach of Rakenjima as like payback for what she's done for her, and brings her cookies, and this stupid fucking line where Beatrice is like, a cookie made from wheat flour, a Japanese favorite, but wrapped in Western chocolate. Truly, this is the height of the Silk Road of confection. And it's like, bitch, what are you saying? And Shannon laughs at her. It's very
Shannon's
cute.
Just like, it's a fucking ho-ho,
Okay,
lady.
so this scene where they're hanging out is when I wavered on my magic point, because I was like, okay, I can't exist in a world where these two are being so cute and they love each other.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's not real because magic isn't real.
I will drop my manifesto in a bit, but we haven't reached the fucking game yet.
Well, I want to focus in on this scene just a little bit, because I really think that this beach scene is kind of encapsulates everything that's going on in these first few chapters, because you have Beatrice and Shannon having this, fun picnic. Shannon tries to give Beatrice her brooch back and says, I want to make this relationship happen with my own power, and George and I's relationship is strong enough. We don't need the magic. And, Beatrice tells her to keep it. Meanwhile, Kanon is hiding in a bush, like staring knives into Beatrice.
Literally staring and throwing. Throwing with his eyes.
It's so funny. And Kanon comes out, Beatrice zaps away, and we get this really beautiful scene between Kanon and Shannon where they talk about the color of the sea. It's something that had come up a couple times earlier in the book. It had come up in that conversation Shannon was having with Beatrice, how the clouds are out today, and Beatrice says, the sea just looks like this nasty gray, but because Shannon has that one single element of the human world, love, that furniture is not allowed to have, because she has become human, she can see the sea looks deep blue to her anyway. And Shannon takes Kanon and tells him to look out at the sea and says, what color do you see? And Kanon's like, it looks gray and shitty. And Shannon says, no, to me, it looks like a deep blue. And she gives Kanon the brooch then, and Kanon tries to refuse it, but Shannon says, no, this isn't Beatrice's brooch. This is my brooch. I'm giving it to you from me. And so Kanon reluctantly accepts it.
Ladies.
And it's kind of all the major, well, not all the major characters, but this little subset of the magical world all comes together here, and we get everybody interacting. And it's, I don't know, I there's something about it.
I think for one thing, it very clearly in one scene delineates all of the relationships of these 3 out of 4 or 5, if you want to argue, major players, where Shannon is deferent to Beatrice, but also she feels like she has such a close relationship that for most of that date she's teasing Beatrice or whatever.
Yeah.
And Beatrice is like, "Oh, I'm owned." They're earnestly playing along. The confident Shannon comes out, the real Shannon comes out, and the real Beatrice comes out when they're together. And Shannon believes in magic for all of this to be happening and believes in the reality of magic, wants to be free of magic and move past that. Kanon, will respond to Shannon. He's like, fine, I'll accept the brooch if it's yours, but I'm not happy about this, and I'm gonna remind you of that all the time with my big pout. And obviously Beatrice and Kanon hate each other. So it does all that. And on the front of magic being real, I feel like it doesn't even matter if I think that magic is real or if I'm biased towards thinking that witches are awesome and magic should be real and that's how all these murders happen, because the whole course of Shannon's shit in this arc is that she hears from Beatrice, who appears as a ghost near her painting, that she should destroy this altar for all this to happen.
Right.
And that literally does physically happen. And then when that happens, she literally does fall in love with George and receive this magical brooch that she then passes on to Kanon, who also physically has that. So unless this is like a mass hallucination, in some capacity, magic is functioning in this world. And it's not just like hysteria. Like, could you imagine a situation where like a third person camera view of Rokenjima and there's no Beatrice or anything. Mm-hmm. One day there's just Shannon goes downstairs and smashes a mirror and walks away. And there's no reason for any of that. And that has no effect. Like, none of that makes sense. And especially with this beach scene, it doesn't add up.
You're not gonna like my answer.
Okay. Okay.
Matt, do you... I feel like this is going to be a big thing. Should we hold off on this? Do you think...
I am going to patiently hold off on this.
You're
I want to know. I do
strong.
want to know. I badly want to know your retort. I love it.
Well, let's at the very least get through the other major player in the actual game before we do this.
If we have to.
I'm sorry to bring everyone down.
I don't want to talk about her.
We have to talk about Rosa Shiramiya. Well, while we're talking about Rosa, we will also be talking about Maria, so don't worry.
I love Maria.
Who is an angel and has never done anything wrong. Rosa is, like I said, she's the adult who survives the first Twilight this time.
Bummer.
But we get scenes of her before then. We get these scenes of her on her way to the airport, and Maria is pitching a fit for one reason or another, and some old lady tries to hand her fucking Werthers or something, and Rosa fucking smacks it out of Maria's hand and fully goes off on this stranger and is like, this is my daughter and I know how to raise her and don't you interfere with my parenting. And like, then of course, as she is wont to do, she hits Maria.
Oh my god.
Like a lot. Like there's a lot of that in this one because of course Rosa is a focus and that is what she does.
But then she buys her a lollipop.
She does. Oh, well then she's hitting Maria on the train station at their connection or whatever, and like after a long time one of the station attendant comes up and is like, hey, are y'all okay? What's going on? And that kind of humiliation, this happens on the train too, that kind of realization that dawns on Rosa kind of, I don't know that you could say brings her back to her senses, but maybe triggers her shame reflex. And like, she like breaks down and holds on to Maria and says, I'm so sorry. It's real textbook shit. If
we want to use Maria's terms, this is when Good Mama comes back.
Yes, the Good Mama and the Bad Witch.
In episode 1, there was I'm going to use the word episode again. Rosa had an episode with Maria, and this was the first like sense we really got of this horrible woman's habits. But at the time I was like, I mean, I'd never excused her, but I wasn't sure if this was like a common occurrence or like just like the stress of the situation. But like this, when Maria is acting in a way where it seems like she has learned to act like this in order to try and calm Rosa down, it's like, okay, so she does this all the fucking time, huh? Mm-hmm. And then like, it just made me hate Rosa more. Like, the fact that Maria was like, don't worry, it's bad mama, it's just become good mama again, and she's crying. I was like, I get emotional about Maria.
Well, yeah, the way that the child becomes a part of the regulatory apparatus for the parent is so important to, like, understanding what Ryukishi is trying to get at here about the nature of abuse and the nature about how abuse like exists. It exists in our society in the way it perpetuates itself, in the way it is perpetuated by people, I guess I should say, to be even more specific. It's funny because, you know, Rosa hates all of Maria's like magic shit. The whole, like, anytime it comes up or goes on for too long, Rosa gets fully pissed off because she's convinced the magic is like the reason that Maria doesn't have any friends in kindergarten, or well, she's 9, so that's like what,
She's
third
9,
grade?
so she's like in 3rd or 4th grade.
But when Rosa is in full apology mode, whenever Maria brings up, oh, that's the bad witch was in you, and now the good mama is back, Rosa buys into it and is more than ready to say that, which I think you can read as like kind of trying to do a make good by playing along. But I also think it's a way that Rosa allows herself to believe that, oh, well, that part of me, that's not me, you know, or, oh, that part of me is the part of me I'm ashamed of.
She's trying to absolve herself of responsibility.
Totally. And
it's horrible.
Rosa.
There, mama. It's okay that you just beat the shit out of me.
It's just
A
like...
daughter wants her mother. There's no helping that.
I got a kid, and I gotta tell you guys, there's a whole nother level to fucking hating Rosa.
There must be.
You can't even begin to understand, like, my kid has a meltdown. Like, it happens. People want things. He doesn't understand the reasons why he can't. He doesn't know what the fuck a capitalism is. And
God bless him.
Yeah, and even when he is having a meltdown, like, what am I going to do? Yell over him? That's not going to help anyone. The best I can do is remove him from the situation, sit him down, talk to him, engage with him. Like, the one thing she does that's, like, on the good parenting book is removing themselves from there to go get the candy, because that's what the kid really wants. You're fucking loaded. Go get your kid a fucking lollipop.
For real. Yeah, the way that... And she feels bad about it too, but even that kind of self-flagellation that she does with Kyrie when they're actually at the mansion, like, she and Kyrie have this little mom moment. Rosa just says, oh, well, I feel like shit for treating Maria like shit all the time. Like, even that becomes a way for her to... Does anyone else have a take on this? I'm trying to put it into words.
No, it's fine. It's like she's trying to validate her bad parenting decisions through Kyrie and everything. Like, she's not trying to say it's a good thing that what I did, but hey, we're parents. We make mistakes.
Well, it's something Rosa says, a child doesn't choose her parent, and then Kyrie comes back with, well, a parent doesn't choose their child.
Thanks, Kyrie.
Wow, she turned that whole chessboard
I hate
around.
to see a girl boss winning.
Well, her line after that is, this isn't a matter of assigning blame. Isn't it enough that you take your time and watch over her as she grows conscious of the fact that you'll be living together?
Really lowered Kyrie in my esteem. What the fuck are you talking about, ma'am? Is Battler, are you okay?
I think Kyrie, go ahead, Izzy.
Battler doesn't think of Kyrie as a mom in any way whatsoever.
That's true. Battler literally left because Kyrie became his mom.
Battler's fine.
Try to be on Kyrie's side, not Rosa's side, but to try to be on Kyrie's side, you know, she's talking to Rosa specifically and trying to, you know, she's trying to
be nice to her, to give her a gentle version of praise, to hope that maybe she treats her daughter better.
Yeah, well, Kyrie is not stupid. It comes up through in like Rosa holds Maria back and the other parents like go on while they're in the rose garden, and Rosa fucking hits her and tells Maria to like stay in the rose garden and all of that shit.
Steps on her fucking lollipop.
Steps on her
that
cool,
she bought her special
literally
thing. It's like literally Maria's clutching it as like proof of the good mama.
It's just wretched. But then she comes back and everyone's like, "Oh, hey, where were you? Where's Maria?" And Rosa like mutters some bullshit. Yeah, like she comes up with some lie, and Kyrie, character trait of being smart, definitely keys into that. And I think that Kyrie is trying to... What do you do in a situation like that where you see, like, you know, a parent pretty plainly abusing their child? How do you step in and solve that? It's easy to say, well, like, get the kid out of there, but like, really, realistically, well, there's that.
The only way to solve it is to kill the abuser.
Well, that's an interesting idea. Congratulations on the murder mystery, everybody.
I did it.
God. Well, this is something that came up in Ryukishi's last series, Higurashi no Naku Koroni. There was 2 whole books about how one of the main characters, who was basically an elementary schooler, was in a very abusive situation with her uncle. And there's a very long, protracted sequence, very obviously informed by Ryukishi's background as a social worker, where like the characters try to brainstorm, well, how do we get her out of there? Well, we can't just take her because the uncle is the legal guardian, and like we can go to Child Protective Services, but they're all wait and see about it. And what if bringing it up with Rosa results in worse treatment for Maria? You know, like how do you kind of try to talk to Rosa, but talk around her ego or her lack of ego in such a way that you're actually able to get through to her? It's a very thorny situation.
Oh, and just because we already said full spoilers in the first episode for Higurashi, Izzy, I will happily tell you that the solution they come up with in at least one run of those 2 Higurashi books is they use the murdering method.
They absolutely murder him. I mean, it goes a little sideways, but the murder happens pretty much without a hitch. The murder isn't the problem in that one.
Yeah.
No, he dies, no one cares,
him.
and everyone in the town covers it up, and they're like, great.
Literally everyone comes together to help this kid get away with a murder, and he's just like he's got brainworms. He's got literal brainworms.
No, he doesn't. He does not have the brainworms in that one.
Wait.
He is totally sane and fine. It's
I have a
this
question.
kid who's being abused who has the brainworms.
Is
Higurashi's fucked up.
is the main question in Higurashi whether or not brainworms are real?
Yes. Our Higurashi series will come after our Umineko one. We can't spend too much time.
Oh god.
Yeah, we're doing our books in machete order, so we're just gonna go in the order that's best to enjoy them in.
Yeah, totally. Chronological order. God. So at the end of the book, Rosa is one of the only people who survives. It's noted in the witch's game record that she's the only one who denies the witch. And she has this scene with Beatrice where she's in, we can assume, Purgatorio, which is where the tea party for episode 1 took place. And they basically have a kind of fucked up therapy sesh where Rosa remembers back to her life as a kid where she was abused horribly by all of her older siblings.
And her dad.
And like there's clearly something going on here in terms of the cycle of abuse all throughout the book. Like there are these little drops of like the adult siblings referencing how much Kinzo fucking absolutely whipped their asses. There's something happening here about the nature of how abuse takes hold in a family, like and how deep the roots are. It's not as simple as Rosa abuses Maria because she's a bad person, but it is also Rosa has all of this trauma that she has unresolved and has no idea how to deal with, so she just vents it all out onto her kid. And Kinzo, like, we don't know what kind of trauma Kinzo had, but he just vented all of his anger out onto his kids, and the rot so deep inside of the Ishiramiya family.
It goes all the way to the freaking end of the witch's game in this one. I mean, until the end of her life, she's rotten to the core. I guess it's the most succinct way to put it. Rosa is.
Yeah.
Because even as we reach the end, which jumping around again, as we reach the end, and there's goat people and everyone frickin' else is dead. Rosa has claimed out loud, which is sort of a very cool and beautiful line. It's a shame it's not fucking true. She says, "I would become the worst kind of demon to save Maria."
And then she just has a fucking doom level?
Okay.
She does have a doom level.
Yeah, but she sucks at it, and then she's like, well, I can either carry the BFG or I can carry my daughter.
Yeah,
and
I can carry my single ingot of gold or my living human daughter.
Yeah, big fucking gold.
And she
tries to choose both, and it just doesn't work. It's a very heavy-handed metaphor, but sometimes you just gotta fucking, take your audience over the head with the message and just fucking get them with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then her Lego leg pops off and she can't run anymore, so...
Well, this is where One, we get one more very cool line from Rosa where she points the gun at a goat's head and says, "I will show you how lukewarm the hell you came from is." And she fucking shoots her, and that's really cool. But we get this line from Maria that, going back to all the talk of selves and hidden selves and true selves and false selves, Maria fucking like sends it all home when she looks at Rosa as they're both being closed in on by these horrible goats. There is only one mama. There is no good mama. There is no bad mama. There's just Rosa. Maria, that's the thing that we kind of find out in that moment, is that Maria talks about the good witch and the bad witch, but Maria knows that it's all just her mom too. And that the people are ultimately like these contradictory selves, or these selves that bemoan the horrible choices they make and then continue to do them. I don't know. Rosa.
You said it all very beautifully, Jen. I'm here with my head in my hands staring at my desk. I'm like, oh wait, this isn't a visual medium. How do I communicate that? Yeah, thank you for...
On the subject of Rosa,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rosa, we get a lot of information about Rosa, but we also see, because she is the adult, her story foils Natsuki's from last.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just from the superficial. They have very similar lines too.
Yeah, totally. The thing about the becoming a demon, that was straight from Natsui's lips last time.
Natsuki said it in episode 1 after she kicked out everyone from Kinzo, half of the people from Kinzo's study, and told Jessica, "I would become a demon to protect you and my children. And these other people also count as my kids, so I'm going to protect them." And Jessica confronts her and says, "Hey, but what if I was over there and I was by the letter? Would you do the same thing then?" And Natsuki struggled to answer that question. That happens in this one with Rosa, because Rosa throws everyone out and is like, "Battler, Maria, I love both of you." This is when George leaves. It's like, "I'm going to protect both of you with my entire life. I'll be a demon to protect you, and as long as you're under my care, you're pretty much my children." And then later, the letter thing shows up again. The only person she can even think of who could do it is Battler, and she's just like, "Okay, get the fuck out. I'm going to shoot you."
Well, Battler or Maria maybe could have done it.
Nope, she said Maria was on the other side
Oh, right,
of the room.
sure. So yeah, Battler, I have determined you are a wolf. For the shithead that she is, Rosa does get a lot of very good lines in this episode. Well, when she's the adult, Battler remarks on this. You see a lot of Kraus and Ava kind of coming through the way she acts when she does assume command, and she's not the youngest of 4, but she is the oldest Ushiramiya in the room. Her demeanor totally changes. She's like cocky. She's like talking shit behind people's backs after having this really emotional moment with them.
God,
the two-facedness, to talk about there is only one Rosa, the two-facedness that she shows in those moments. Talk about becoming the worst kind of demon.
Yeah, you are. Beatrice wishes she had furniture like you.
Yeah, man.
It's hard to talk about Rosa.
Yeah, I had put her on the list as one of the things I really wanted to talk about. And when we got here, I was like, I really don't even have words. It's just so sad how real of a character she is in being that way. Like how it makes her even less of a caricature than some of the other family members even. Like she is like so complex and three-dimensional in the worst and most evil way, and it's so sad. I have more I want to say about Maria too, that sort of relates to the game, so I'm waiting about it. Because it's like that plays into Rosa and how Rosa treats Maria, even though Maria's important as shit and solves every problem in this whole fucking series. She's the one who like knows everything.
Maybe they should fucking listen to Maria.
That's it. Literally, that's what I'm here to talk about. That's what makes Rosa so fucked up, is that in this situation, Maria is actually so helpful and so smart, and her special interest in this matter and or affinity with magic, if magic is real, is so important. And they're like, what the fuck ever. And Rosa's like, you're dumb and I hate you. And it's like, you made this happen, maybe.
Well, that's Rosa. There's lots more we can say about Rosa. Maybe she'll come up again.
Maybe in this 8-episode thing where the same show up, we might get more Rosa.
Maybe. Okay, well, I was kind of talking about the episode, but yeah, okay. Rosa will almost assuredly show up again somewhere in the rest of Umineko. Probably.
She's in it.
Before we go on, I feel like this would be a great time for one Matthew Winter to lay out his comprehensive, ontologically complete theory about the nature of magic in Umineko.
All right, so I'm going to start with those famous words. You're not going to like this.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna mute myself so I don't yell at you.
No, I want you unmuted. I want you to yell, and I'm going to power through.
Got it.
A true Umineko fight. Okay.
Basically, my theory is that literally anything we do not see from Battler's point of view literally doesn't happen.
I kind of agree with that one.
Is it possible that it would happen? Were these events something that occurred on the planet? Sure, it is entirely possible. But I honestly, at this point, after going through this whole chapter, I don't even believe that George and Shannon are in a relationship of any real amount.
Oh my god.
I'm so far removed from
This
it.
is intense.
Is there sprinkles of truth through all this bullshit? Probably enough to make it somewhat believable. Like, there's some reason why Shannon and George went up to Natsui's room. Was it to go get a plate of glass because she broke the one in the secret temple out on the rock? I don't know. That sounds ridiculous. And oh my god, there's so much stuff that doesn't make sense, because I really think that the biggest thing that this chapter does is the second rule of real actual magic, which is distraction. And oh my god, there's so many times in this chapter where it turns your head away from where you should be looking. Once we hit the first Twilight, I'll point out the very first one that we should be looking at, that the story takes great lengths and steps to make sure we are not looking at. And it is so cool how well it does it. I have 15 index cards of my bullshit ramblings about all of this. I am not joking. Maybe it'll be in the show notes, a photo of my misery.
Oh my god.
I mean, to do that, we would need to publish an episode first, so we'll just get to step 1 before we get to step 2.
Matt.
Well, to what you were saying, Matt, about the nature of what you can or cannot trust, this is the episode where we are formally introduced to the game between Battler and Beatrice, which is still largely mysterious to us because it kind of just seems like the end of episode 1, the tea party of episode 1 happened, and then Beatrice just said, okay, well, let me spin you a new yarn, and they just kind of kept going from there. What do we think about, like, the game of, like, you know, witches are real, witches aren't real, all that stuff?
Witches aren't real.
I have a question for Matt, because first of all, I don't want to get too far away from your beautiful fucking theory that is so sexy and juicy. I do hate it, but I'm so utterly impressed by what you formulated there. I feel
my
like
theory is in fact wearing short shorts that say juicy along the ass.
Oh, it's juicy. Yeah, she's doing it.
Oh my god.
I feel like, to me, it is just too boring to imagine, but this is so intriguing. I can't wait to hear how it's played out. So my first question to you, Matt, which Jenn has pitched for all of us, so just I'm catching Jen's ball and chucking it at your head, is how does Battler versus Beatrice in Purgatory as the framing narrative that Battler is experiencing in real time and is admitting to experiencing and is looking at himself saying, oh fuck, I'm so stupid, this is such bullshit, why am I believing this? How can that exist? If magic doesn't exist, Battler's seeing all that shit.
I love the series.
Hey, let's say you're playing, I don't know, a visual novel.
Okay, well, hang on. That's a little preposterous for me.
I can't imagine it. Ask me something else.
Let's say you're doing that. Are you able to do things outside of the game that affect your abilities in the game? Like, I don't know, loading a previous save point, learning about things from a meta level that allow you to progress and find different paths moving forward?
Matt is saying this is Undertale.
I'm saying that I'm not saying that... How do I put this? Battler and Beatrice is an argument of such a weird level, because it is a character from the first story who looks at it and goes, that's bullshit, this isn't true, and that's not a satisfying mystery story, and the other person going, it's not a mystery story, what are you talking about? And that being the battle between them. And the introductions of a mechanic that we get in this episode doesn't do anything to further that, because having any sprinklings of what can and cannot be decided to be real makes it even more confusing. It's not helpful in any realistic way except to try to solve the mystery. But if there's no mystery, then what's the point?
Those are all great questions.
Mineko.
Umineko no naku koroni. I made it. Okay.
I don't know what "oo" means.
I hear.
whatever. Those are great questions, but that doesn't answer my question. So are you just saying that that literally doesn't exist? Like those are like Fuck World Beatrice and Fuck World Battler are different characters altogether from the Murder House Battler in Beatrice?
Absolutely. There are 2 layers to the story that we're on so far.
It's like a brand new story that happens to overlay the other thing. These don't actually exist in the same universe.
Correct.
That's also so boring. That
No.
can't be true.
I disagree with you, Matt, but I also agree with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
A lot of what I've been reading, I have been thinking about it not as we can only trust Battler's perspective, but that the perspective we see is clearly tinted by the biases of the perspective. So, like, so much of this episode has magic in it, but it only ever happens from the perspective of people who are ready to accept magic's existence.
Is that
Now, Battler...
It is not true. Gohda doesn't believe in anything except for food.
We don't know
Maybe
enough about
Natsu.
Gohda to say that for sure. Battler, however, loses at the end and then has this weird thing with the golden buffet and gets eaten. At this point, Battler, whose perspective we're supposed to trust according to your theory, is witnessing magic. But what he's witnessing is because he now is biased to accept that it exists. Magic only exists in the eyes of those who believe it, and that's kind of like what they're going for. And so the Battler that's in the tea party room with Beatrice currently is in the mindset to believe that magic is existing, even though he's trying to refuse it. But because of the type of person he is, he can't refuse it until he can for sure refuse it. So his mind still thinks, oh, magic could be real, even if he won't admit it. And that's why he can still perceive all of this magic that's going on around him. But at the end of the game, the moment he's like, oh no, this is impossible, it will all shatter.
Battler pops out of existence and the game instant closes. Yes.
Well, it's like the relationship between the real and the meta, if you will, world is kind of not entirely clear, because we have this battler on the game board who turns over and falls asleep on the couch because he says it isn't his turn yet. So
Which
do
is
the
an insane
pieces
thing
know?
for a real person to say.
Which is a thing in normal... Like, Beatrice on the game board talks about how she is going to be entertaining witches from very far away, which we know, as people who have read the first episode, is referring to Burncastle and New Edition in this one, Lambda Delta. Kinzo even makes some kind of references to how will this game go, which could be maybe a reference to a game between him and Beatrice that happened in the past, or is it talking about the nature of this sort of weird time loop that they're trapped in? It's not entirely fully sorted in the text, at least, what exactly the relationship is. So I'm very interested in hearing these different interpretations.
Okay, I don't want to keep us going into the game too long, but I do have one more question, Matt. If all of this is hashtag just a dream, then what purpose does going through, 7 or so fake stories before you get to the real story serve?
Because Beatrice hasn't won yet.
But what does it...
What does it matter if Beatrice wins if she doesn't exist?
Because that's the whole point of the story. Does magic exist? Does this person really exist? That's the goal of... she beats Battler into the ground in this episode. She gets her complete and total victory by the end of it. But that's not how she wins. Otherwise, it would be over. The story would be over. She is not trying to win over Battler. She is trying to go for something grander than that. I don't know what it is exactly, but that's why we have the story continue on from here on. Like, Burncastle straight up goes, oh, hey, yeah, Beatrice is heading over there to go torture some ladies to get Battler to keep playing her game, so...
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then what, for us as little Sherlocks, as Detective Conans,
little Poirots over here.
Yeah. What purpose do the games serve us? If this is all hallucination, Beatrice mind trick, don't want the death sticks hooey, then what do we get out of episode 2 of Umineko, where half of it is bullshit? Is it literally just a billion words of smoke and mirrors, or is there something to be taken from that?
That is exactly what I think it is a billion words of smoke and mirrors to
Holy
point your eyes away
freaking-
from where they should go.
Oh my god, but
So
you're not
saying
answering the question.
Okay, so you're okay. Well, let's go ahead. We're gonna get into the Twilights very quick here. I do want to make note of a couple new developments in terms of the game. Last time we got this move known as chessboard thinking from Kyrie, and Battler used it a couple times to kind of middling effect at best. Here we get a couple of a few more moves available to both the human and the witch's side. One is I think we talked about this, but it shows up again here. The concept of a devil's proof, that you can't prove the devil doesn't exist. For instance, you can't say for sure that there's no 19th person on the island because you can't look at every single point on the island simultaneously to determine that there is no 19th person. That came up earlier, but we also get these new moves. Rosa and Maria talk about the wolves and sheep puzzle, where it's a classic logic game. If you've ever played Professor Layton, you've definitely solved at least 5 or 6 of these.
Wait, are you telling me it's a fake city on this island?
I'm telling you that everyone is a robot, and there's just a big mirror, and there's like some gas.
Oh my god, no spoiler.
They forgot that the color black exists is still my favorite.
I forgot. Professor Layton's so stupid. I love it so much.
I will not tell you which game because it'll blow your fucking mind, but in one Professor Layton game, the reason that all the magic stuff seems to be happening is because they forgot the color black exists.
Oh my god!
Video games suck, actually.
Wolves and Sheep is about you have 2 wolves and 2 sheep on one side of a river, and you need to get them all onto the other side of the river. But the catch is you only have one boat that can carry 2 things at a time. If the wolves ever outnumber the sheep, the wolves will eat the sheep and you lose. So you need to find a way to move both the wolves and the sheep over to the second bank while, not having the wolves eat the sheep. And this is something that they use in the game to think about, well, who were the sus imposters in the group, and who are the good and upstanding space people to...
Oh my god, you're really trying to connect to the youth out there, huh?
I'm trying to... The Gen Zs out there, they've got to like Umineko too. And they complicate it because, these are people we're talking about, not just an abstract logic puzzle. So maybe you just need one really strong wolf to overtake like 2 weak sheep. Or maybe even if the wolves and sheep are in perfect balance, maybe the wolves will still eat the sheep. So it's complicated. It's just a way of thinking about who are the collaborators or the culprits and who aren't in any given situation. But more important than that, the single most important development in the game that we get this one is the introduction of the Red Truth. Beatrice and Battler circle around each other during the first Twilight, unable to make any headway because they both deny the basic claims of each other, and Beatrice declares perpetual check. So, Beatrice introduces the rule of the Red Truth, where anything she says in red, because it's text on a screen, so any of the text that she says that comes out in red is true, point blank, and she doesn't need to prove it. It's great. I love the Red Truth. The Red Truth is what makes this, in my mind, is what makes this game really playable in a way that Higurashi kind of wasn't. Like, Higurashi, there's a lot of question about, like, what's real, what isn't. Like, from the perspective of people, are people, like, fucking totally freaking out? Is the reality that we're seeing actually true? But Beatrice circumvents that by just having a thing she can do that just makes it completely provably true for no reason other than that she has said it. And it's great. I love it.
We can't trust it.
Okay, that's why I was waiting for that one to drop.
It's a really, really good mechanic, because there's a bit in Higurashi. Keiichi, the dude in that one, who's an idiot, goes ahead and takes a bite out of like a nice rice ball that someone else made for him. And he pulls it out of his mouth after feeling pain. And oh my god, there was a sewing needle inside. They were trying to kill him. And then in the answer arc, we learn, it was actually just spicy. He's just lame.
Mm-hmm.
He's just lame.
He has the brainworms.
What? That sucks.
Yeah, like the Red Truth, like giving this game between Beatrice and Battler, and on an even more meta level, the game and the reader, giving it like actual factual mechanics is really interesting. It really allows you to engage with the game part of it in a way that's much more approachable. Like, I mean, that's why Beatrice even makes it, because she says, well, if we're going to be playing this game together, we have to have something that, you know, we can both base our arguments on. You know, there are things sort of like this in detective fiction more broadly. Beatrice brings up the Knox Decalogue and the Van Dyne rules for mystery novels, just sort of in passing. But the idea of the agreement between the author and the reader of a mystery novel that, yes, you can play this and solve it is, of course, something Beatrice is playing with a lot. And so this is maybe her sort of overture to that sort of agreement, which I think is very fun.
Mm-hmm. I think it's fun too.
So everyone goes and meets up for whatever reason, but Rosa is hanging out in the flowers with her idiot her daughter's great. She's terrible. Beatrice walks up and fixes Maria's lollipop, and also gives a letter each to Maria and to Rosa, and Maria's has a key inside it.
Beatrice fixes her lollipop with magic. She throws it up in the air and it explodes into golden butterflies.
Maybe. So then Beatrice basically walks inside. Kyrie sees her and is like, hey, what's up? And Beatrice just doesn't give a shit and walks on. And then she goes back and she's like, hey, I just met some weird girl out in the hallway. She looked like the portrait lady. And they're like, oh, probably Kenzo's secret child. That's fun. And then they're like, well, is there secretly another person here? This is going to affect our whole terrible plan that we were going to yell at each other about forever. And then all the children stuff are shooed away. Dinner is abruptly ended. And then we basically skip over to the sealed chapel. A new location for this one that was never mentioned in the last one, where there's just a full-on Roman Catholic church on the island for marriages.
Remember that?
Yeah, well, it's very special to Kenzo. He says it's cleaned multiple times a year. The decorations are continually changed out. It's something he, for whatever reason, cares about a whole lot.
So in this scene, we get everyone going, so you all agree I'm real, right? And they go, yup. What about you, Kyrie?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
What about you, Kyrie, comma, the smart one, comma,
the skeptic?
Who Battler believes in above all else? I thought about it, and yes, magic is real.
Wonk.
And it's like, so good.
It's so it's not even...
It's completely, it's just a simple play by Beatrice. You wanted to doubt whether or not a 19th person existed. Beatrice has made it clear that there she is. There's Beatrice, the 19th person, who is not anyone else on the island.
And teleports everyone into a room.
Kyrie, the most skeptical and the smartest of anyone, sees her and verify, like, even by your logic, like this, we trust nothing that Battler didn't see, brings it up at the dinner table and, you know, in full view of Battler, and to his eyes at least, doesn't seem to be like pulling one over on everyone. Like, and why would she even do that?
Oh, there's red text later on that states that is actually Beatrice. So yes, that is Beatrice. There is a 19th person this time.
Oh, so you do trust the red text?
Yeah. If I don't trust the red text, then I wouldn't have 15 fucking index cards.
The red text is crap. I don't want to get into it just yet, but the red text is crap.
We'll get there. Matt, please continue.
So basically, everyone wakes up the next morning. Maria and Rosa's like, well, that was a lovely night's sleep that I had. Time to continue on with my day. Oh no, everyone else is missing. The chapel, there's a mysterious art on the outside of it. Not sure what that's all about.
It's the same magic circle from the first episode of the first Twilight in the first episode. Just want to point that out.
Let me do the only logical thing and sprint to the letter that a mysterious witch gave my daughter. And then she goes and steals it, notably being seen by Battler himself doing it.
Well, it's like noticed. He like kind of like shuffles in his sleep. I don't know that he actually sees it with his eyeballs.
Battler says it later on that he saw Rosa.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yes, it is definitely true that Battler like knew that Rosa was in there. Yeah.
Then she goes and opens it and oh my gosh, everyone's dead. And all the kids show up and they're like, oh wow, everyone's dead. There's a lot that's going on here, specifically to not make you think about two very important things as we continue through the rest of this scene. And the most important one that I am just sprinting to get to is, hey, wait a minute. Where was Rosa last night?
Where was Rosa last night?
Huh.
During the roll call we get right before the clock ticks over to midnight, Rosa is said to be in the chapel with all the siblings and spouses.
Last we hear of any of them, yeah. Before
You
we
know,
find
how
them
much do
fucking
you
dead.
believe this roll call? Hey, look, that's entirely up to you, but
I don't need to believe that roll call because I have another piece of evidence that plants are there.
what's that?
There's a letter found on the banquet table. It's the Witch's Letter 1 from the first story, the one that was read at dinner. And if you remember what Beatrice gave instructions to Rosa to, which I don't 100% believe in anything at all, but Beatrice did say, hey, make sure to open this during dinner. And it was not opened during dinner. It was taken by Rosa, and it was left by Rosa inside of that chapel when she was in there.
Killing everyone, I think, is the unspoken truth you're trying to get at.
If you assume Rosa is a wolf, it answers a lot of questions. Where did that letter come from that implicated Battler? She chucked it on that table because she wanted to clear him out.
Yeah, that's
It's an
fair.
interesting idea. I love your stance of, I don't believe anything the witch says unless it is helpful to my position, in which case it's totally true. Fully in the
100%.
spirit of Umineko.
You got it.
Oh, man.
Got it in one, Jen.
But if Rosa is public enemy number 1 right now, then how do you reconcile the reality of what Battler witnesses in episode 2 with Rosa being absolutely the one who murdered everyone's ass, with episode 1 where she is dead the whole time and doesn't do anything? How do you
Quote-unquote.
reconcile those things?
Yeah.
This is not the same story as Higurashi. This is not a time loop. This story is fundamentally different every single time, and that's the trick to it. We can't be trying to find the one culprit. There may still be one, common
There's
person between it all.
four separate murder mysteries?
Yes, absolutely. But there's commonalities between them. There's one specific thing that comes up in this one where one of the grandchildren is the one who took the letter out of Maria's bag and originally got the key out of it to unlock the door. And then Rosa was caught putting it back in there. So there's at least 2 people involved in this story, if not more. Am I going to go out on a limb and say George is the mastermind behind all this? Probably. He had some suspicious lines in this one and the last one. But I just find it hard to believe that there even is a mastermind in this concept and conceit of this game when that was the core thing of Higurashi, was even learning that there was a mastermind. I have so much weight put on me from knowing the last story that it is crushing.
I think that's very purposeful. That's something, having characters that are there to represent essentially the protagonist and the antagonist of your last story, but in Umineko.
Wait, the little blonde bitch is the villain? She's 7.
She's kind of meant, it's not as cut and dry. I can't get into the fucking when they cry meta lore right now, but essentially Lambda Delta, this witch who shows up at the end of episode 2 in the Hidden Tea Party, is basically she's called the Witch of Certainty, and she kind of personifies the antagonist of Higurashi and sort of her will to absolutely achieve her goals. And she's kind of the witch of overwhelming force, the witch of making 100% completely certain that you will 100% achieve what you are trying to do. And it's very, very telling, I think, that Lambda Delta... Wait, no, Beatrice summons Lambda Delta, isn't that it?
Yes, Beatrice does summon Lambda Delta.
Yeah, so there's some kind of affinity there. Well, all that is to say that I think Umineko, this isn't something I got on my first read because I read it without having read Higurashi, but Umineko is absolutely playing on certain kind of preconceptions you have about Higurashi, both from the sense of how the last game worked and the sense that the game is a game at all, that it is something you are meant to try to poke at and prod at, and that there could be commonalities with Higurashi, again, with Burncastle literally lending you her power, that there's something in the way Higurashi is set up that can help you understand the way Umineko is set up, or something like that. Do you have, does anyone have anything to say about the locked room? Locked rooms are a very big thing in this game. There's all the logic battles kind of revolve around the locked rooms, more or less. This one kind of gets done, or Beatrice resigns on it at the very least. So maybe there's not a whole lot to say. You should read the book if you want a full breakdown on all the locked rooms. I will be challenging you, though, Matt, if we get to ones that were not solved. I will be asking you how they happen. To wit,
I can't promise I'll always have answers, but I will do my best.
the second Twilight happens between Kanon and Jessica inside of Jessica's room. The two get super murdered by the cool Seven Stakes, who are also anime titty girls.
Oh my god, they're anime titty girls now. Why?
I love them.
Oh my god,
I love them so
hate
much.
They're so wonderful.
Their outfit is atrocious, but
Yes.
you showed me a lineup of a number of color-coded, single personality trait super people, and I will just fall completely in love with them. So, the second Twilight, Matt, let's hear it. Locked room, Kanon's corpse gets disappeared from that locked room, so when they find it, again, locked, it's only Jessica's corpse in there. What gives?
Oh, that was magic.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
No, I'm messing. Okay, so there's a few important things to note about the specificities of the red truths and what they tell you and what they specifically do not tell you and what they can lead you to believe and what I have to really trust the localizers to be doing their work with here. So there's a lot of wiggle room about how this whole scene plays out, because all we know for certain, I believe, and I wish I could go back and double check to see if anybody actually went back up to Beatrice's room, is the order of events that happened, where Kanon went with Jessica to Beatrice's room. Yeah, sure. Kanon went with Jessica and Gohda to Beatrice's room. Jessica broke a bunch of shit, had an asthma attack, and slunk off to her room. And then we are told that Kanon followed Jessica to Jessica's room.
That all happens kind of in the same contiguous scene, at least. Jessica slinks off, and then Kanon's like, look, Gohda, I'll take care of it. Jessica, I know how Jessica is. I'll fucking do it. And Goda's like, dude.
And then Gohda, 7-foot-tall monster of a man, is absent until he shows up again later with the rest of the family.
Mm-hmm.
I really hate to say it, Izzy, but I gotta suspect Gohda for this one.
This one's Gohda! Yes!
Okay.
Gohda-triss!
Okay. Let me just clarify my position on Gohda. I like him now. I don't think he's absolved of responsibility despite how stupid he is.
Izzy, I know I'm breaking your heart. I'm so sorry.
You literally are not.
Goda's incapable.
No,
He's 7 foot tall. He just falls on him.
We cannot.
No,
we can't come from the perspective that the person's incapable.
Setting aside how, Gohda absolutely could have killed two teenagers. I believe that's within his capacity.
That has nothing to do with physique. Goda's a boofus doofus. Goda's got two...
Kanon's like a small bird. Gohda sits on him. It's over.
Kanon has an energy source.
This is a modern scenario where people could have guns.
Setting all of that aside...
There is one gun by Steve McQueen in Wanted, Alive or Dead, and that's it.
Setting all of that aside, if you continue walking me through your theory, I want to hear what you've got.
It has to be another servant who does this one, because Jessica has Kanon's key on her, and in addition to that, her key is on the nightstand. There's absolutely no way that it could be any of those. Kanon's corpse almost certainly went out the window.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that really could have happened to it. We never go back outside in this story. In this one in particular, our cone of vision is extremely limited because Rosa keeps us locked in one room the entire fucking time.
Isn't there something about the windows being locked or not having open?
The windows are locked from the inside too, so if Kanon was, dumped out the window, then someone would have to lock the window behind him.
Yeah, that'd be Gohda.
Which I guess if you're trying to take a mystery perspective on this, I guess could be Gohda.
The actual critical flaw in all of my thinking, and it's one that I'm going to deliberately put the heat on myself for because I don't really have an answer and I want to get the question out there to think on it more. Sure, Gohda could be the one who killed her, but if Gohda didn't do the next one, how the fuck did someone else get a hold of a bunch of stakes and shit to do this? The occult imagery and the epitaph itself are part of an overlying system that are meant to, again, mislead and confuse you. The question that comes to mind is, why are these things being repeated? Well, the whole point of the epitaph is to make you think people died in a certain order. We talked about it last time with Kinzo burning to death early in the morning, but him being allegedly the 7th or 8th Twilight, which is nonsense, because he didn't die in that order.
This episode goes even more off the wall with the death order.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but also the death method, considering Kumasawa and Nanjo had their throats slit and everything. That's the big point of the epitaph, is to make you think this is how someone died and this is when someone died. And that's where I am kind of sitting on that right now. I don't have all the answers. I really don't, but I can see these threads of why these things exist, why these parts of the story are even there. And I just got to keep picking at them until it all comes apart.
And from my perspective, the epitaph here is what is cluing us into something wrong is happening. Because the epitaph in this case is not proving an order to us as the reader, but confusing us as the reader.
Well, let's go ahead and, unless someone else has anything else to say about the second Twilight, let's go ahead and get into that. Because the next people who die are the 7th and 8th Twilights, Nanjo and Kumasawa, in a cool magical action sequence where Kanon's corpse is reanimated and is taken into the servants' room, and fucking Genji, he becomes Genji Overwatch and and fucking skewers Kanon to the wall. Shannon puts a spider web on him. It's fucking bizarre. But in the chaos of all that, Nanjo and Kumasawa get their throats slit, and then their corpses are vanished until later when they show up as the 7th and 8th Twilights. So yeah, this idea, like what you were saying, Izzy, about how you say the epitaph is there to like confuse us. Is that what you're saying?
The epitaph from Matt's perspective is there to confuse us, but this one is actually, and I know what I said earlier kind of contradicts this because I said it wrong. Shut up. The epitaph here is actually showing us the true order of events. It's not trying to confuse us, because what I was saying and what Matt was saying earlier is like Battler's perspective is generally a trustable one. Now, Matt is from the perspective of Battler is the only one we can trust, and I'm just from the perspective of Battler's the only one that I can trust that has no magic, because Battler's the only one who doesn't think magic should be real. What am I trying to say? Hold on.
We're finding it.
They get killed. They're dead. But then they get the stakes in them that make them the 8th and the 9th Twilight. But the thing is, from our perspective, I'm going to go to the next killing, by the way.
Okay, sure, yeah. Like, this is, I mean, to talk about confusing the order, you kind of have to. Gohda, Shannon, and George all die.
Gohda, Shannon, and George all die. We can't trust the perspective that was telling us that story, because Gohda is killed and staked first, but he's ordered post-Shannon, who actually was probably the last one to die in that scenario, because she had energy sword barriers. Like, there's a whole scene where Gohda gets hit with the stake and killed, and we know it because the game uses the same sound effect that it had used before to represent the stake getting wound into someone. Gohda's supposed to be the 5th Twilight, but who's the 4th Twilight? Shannon. And then who's the 6th one? George. And then 7th and 8th is fucking Volgan and Nanjo.
This won't die.
And Kumasawa and Nanjo were killed earlier according to the perspective of those in that one closed room, but those people that came back all had the perspective of, we didn't know what was happening. We can't really describe what happened until Genji said, oh, this is what happened. And then Gohda, with his suspicious ass words, was like, oh, yeah, Genji's right. That's exactly what happened. Like, you suspicious motherfucker. That's how you sound like you did it.
Are we landing on Gohda did it? Is that like where everybody's kind of coming together on this one?
No, Gohda didn't do it. Like a large group of people did it.
Oh man,
Gohda being
this
one
is
of
actually
them.
This is actually supposed to be a heist story, but it's one of those ones where they all stab each other in the back. But like you're watching it from the perspective of the bitches who are getting knocked
and
over.
I have a lot to say about the meta of the game, because I feel like Anna and Matt are coming at it from the perspective of, okay, which side of the game do I take? But I am anti-game. I am against the game itself, and we could get to that later.
Well, no, I mean, we're just freewheeling it here. Let me hear it.
First of all, I said earlier, the red truths can't be trusted. A lot of how the game is working is it is using the red truths as a way to be like, hey, this is how we can have this conversation. And at first I was like, okay, that's fine. But then we get to the amazing scene where Beatrice calls Battler incompetent in a red truth. That is accurate. That is a correct statement.
Correct. That's factual.
That's the truth.
I'm not here to try and fight that Battler's not incompetent. He's a dumbass. But then Beatrice starts using the red on totally random things, like laughing and taunts.
It's a real laugh.
That stuff
he's gonna lick some shoes.
That stuff can't be objectively true. And the red truth is there for someone who wants to like delude themselves into thinking that the way the game is playing it is the way it should be thought about. But from my perspective, I'm fighting the game. The game's fucking with me.
You have managed to discover a double devil's proof somehow.
You found an angel's proof somehow.
Because, okay, another thing that the game does, the game itself, like the game I open on Steam, I've noticed that the tips for this episode, the character thingies, have two sides of it. There's the people who are at the island, and then the people who are relevant to this magical world. And it seems like the descriptions for the characters are written from those perspectives as well. Because, like, everything that the island one, the real one, quote unquote, talks about is stuff that is relevant to literally what happened. But then everything that's written in the other one is from the pure perspective of magic is real, because it talks about how people have the black blood. It talks about how Shannon got a heart put in her. And it's like, this is, even the tips are there to confuse us, because it's showing us both sides of this bullshit story. And all that really matters is that this game is a bitch.
If you can't hold on to the red truth, if you can't trust the red truth, then what are you going to trust?
I
how are you going...
I can't, is the thing.
Okay.
I can't trust this
Izzy
thing.
has fully submitted to the witch, is what I'm hearing. Izzy...
I have not submitted to the witch. This witch is a bitch.
Izzy's just on the chain and just pulling at it, saying, I'm not really on this chain. This one, that I mean.
This is a bullshit chain. It's not real.
I'm not owned. I'm not owned.
Yeah.
Oh
So I
my
slowly lick her shoe.
Anna, you've been pretty quiet through these twilights.
I am over here scribbling furiously on a notepad. I have a whole impassioned magic speech to give when this is over. But right now, I am amused with this, and these are all very plausible theories about the nature of the real world, real sad, boring murder that's happening. So these I'm not buying what's being put down right now, and I am totally tuned in. But I have some stew a boiling, and you'll get a bowl in a little bit.
We'll leave you to stew. Matt, did you have any theories particularly about Twilight's 4 through 8?
Yeah, I actually do have some stuff to dump on real quick.
Let's hear it.
Can you rephrase that? Wait, can you just say that one more time in a different way?
I just gotta take a giant shit all over these next couple Twilights.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Go on.
So basically, after Kumasawa and Nanjo are killed, there is a 3-hour gap where Gohda and the group of Shannon and George and Genji, we don't know what happened with them, basically. We hear about the magical mirror quest, and they're chased by an ocean of butterflies. You know, how you do.
Yeah, real things that happen.
Yeah, definitely. And Genji is just jacking off in the kitchen or whatever.
As he does.
Just like Genji Overwatch would have done. And that's 3 whole hours until Genji just... I think Genji just trips and falls face first all over the bloody room because he's doing, like, the lights out check or whatever. Because that's what you do.
Yeah, he's very dedicated to his servant duties.
So that's 3 hours, though. Like, did George, Shannon, and Gohda even die at the same time? Who knows? That's such a huge gap of time. But anyway, another thing I wanted to come back on was... the red facts for the servants' room say that all the keys for the servants' room are inside of that lockbox in the middle of the room, but what we don't really have is a context of if any of those were used.
Ah, tricky.
No, yeah, it's fun, because it's entirely possible that after the group goes to go and tell Natsui, hey, there was a spooky thing that happened that we're not going to say in any real terms except for we thought it was canon, but it really wasn't. And also 2 people's throats are slit. Actually, they don't even say that much. They just say Kumasawa and Nanjo are dead. They don't even say how they died. It's just a matter of there was something that we thought was canon, but it was not. But anyway, to continue on with my extremely rambling thoughts, it's entirely possible that after the group went and told Rosa about what happened, and they all went back and unlocked the door for it and everything, and then the corpses were gone, that whichever one of them was the one who moved the bodies, because I guess they must have split off from the group at some point. I know I'm kind of having to pull into devil's proofs here, but what else am I going to do? It's entirely possible that when the group reunited to go back into the room, that is when they put the key back into the box, and by the time that the red text came up that all the keys are inside of the box, that had already happened. Just a matter of everyone looking at the blood stains on the ground or something, and they had a perfect opportunity to just put something back in the box.
Huh. That's a very interesting theory. Fully in the spirit of Umineko, just like the most twisted, convenient, like, oh, and then this happened because this had to happen. I love it. I love this theory.
I hate you.
It's great. I'm sipping it from a wine glass.
What we need to remember is that the game is bullshit and it's lying to us.
Izzy.
Then why are we playing it, Izzy?
That's the point!
Okay, so you're saying what is it? A man chooses, a slave obeys. You just have to turn off BioShock and chuck it back in the GameStop.
The whole fight about magic versus reality, it's really all just a fucking crazy dressed up, this is not a pipe nonsense.
Izzy just fully refuses. Well, enjoy your time in the Golden Land. I mean, the witch is going to take you there if you're going to lick her shoe that bad.
No, Izzy's got a fascinating thing where she believes in magic, but only if the people in the story clap their hands and believe, like Tinkerbell.
That's what's happening.
No, it isn't.
It's literally
the only time that happens is after the story ends and we get the credits. Then magic is officially real because we're not in the story anymore.
But that's all
lies. After Battler goes, yeah, I submit. You got me, Beto. And then the credits roll, and then after that we enter the dumb shit.
Well, before we get to the dumb shit, was there anything else you had about these Twilights? Because we've got the 9th to... Well, the parlor letter you kind of already laid out, but we've got the 9th and kind of the end of the game to get through.
The other thing I wanted to take a note on is the existence of the false canon. Beatrice herself is missing from pretty much the second she shows up and goes up to the room. I think it is entirely possible that she was the false canon. I know that one is, again, a bit of a stretch, but all I have are big stretches, so here we are. I do believe that there is a false canon running around. For a minute, I entertained the thought that the canon who went into Jessica's room to deal with the inhaler situation was also the same false canon, but that just doesn't seem possible, so...
Yeah, Kanon and Gohda and Jessica were all running together. We can assume for most of the way back.
Yeah, the only time that would have been possible to do a swap would have been when Shannon brought Beatrice her dinner. But I don't really see any evidence of a Beatrice as a false Shannon. That doesn't really add up. Also, Jessica is lying face down in the room, which would be suspicious, except for the fact that Beatrice tells us in a Red Truth later that Jessica is in the room.
Oh, yes. Jessica is in the room. Your party consists of blank, 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 and blank. A very good Red Truth that we also get from Beatrice regarding the second Twilight is that Kanon died in that room, which is a very fun, because without that red, you could explain anything away. Kanon wasn't there in the first place. Kanon fucking totally did it and then is just hiding for the rest of the time.
Did the Red Truth say, and I don't make fun of me for talking about Red Truths now.
Yeah, this is it. This is the game.
Did the Red Truth say, Kanon died in here when you believed they did?
The Red Truth is exactly, Kanon was killed in this room.
Kanon could have been killed way later.
No. Was killed in this room.
It says, yeah, and the point in the game that they're at is just during that investigation. I mean, this gets into the meta, how you think the metaphysics of all this
we're
work.
To understand that the Red Truths are temporally restrained?
That's an assumption I had made, but maybe that's not true.
The assumption I'm making is we are getting the Red Truths at the point in the story. If Battler were reading the book, they would be something that is true up to that point with certainty.
Okay.
That is an assumption, though, Izzy. That's a very good point that, maybe it gets too much into, again, how does the meta world interact with the real world? It's very not clear, but the idea that the Red Truths can be temporally dislocated from the time they are said, that's interesting.
Thank you. I just thought of it just now.
Those are your little gray cells.
Yeah, my little gray cells. I'm just like Poirot. I'm just like Ben 10 when he turns into that little green boy.
Oh my god.
We are all Ben 10.
We are all Ben 10.
I've never seen Ben 10.
I watched quite a bit of it.
Yeah, you did.
Shut up!
When I was working my last job, a coworker of mine was just like, hey, who do you think would win in a battle between every fictional character ever? And I said, I don't know, man, Goku or something. And then he went, no, it's Ben 10. And I'm like,
Ben 10.
Okay.
Well, the answer is clearly Beatrice the Golden from Umineko.
The answer is clearly Gohda. He's just large.
He's just big. Who could be bigger than Gohda? No one.
In fiction ever? Nobody.
In fiction ever, only Gohda. One thing I want to note about the 4th and 5th and 6th Twilights in Natsui's room is it's kind of the culmination of the Beatrice Shannon storyline where Shannon has erected a fucking sick energy barrier around her and George, and, Beatrice is trying to claw her way through it, but Shannon just doesn't have any of it. She stays fully strong. She talks about the engagement ring that I got from George that's the magic coming true. That is the miracle becoming real.
And then Beatrice shoots back with, yeah, but she ain't got dick down on yet.
Literally, she fucking flies. We've seen Beatrice's facade kind of crack a few times. At this point, it fully falls apart. Beatrice goes on this fucking screed about how, love is lust, totally meaningless unless you're sleeping together. Men are mere flies and maggots that get drawn to your female scent and crawl around you. Do you not understand that at your age? And it, just goes on for, a whole page. Yeah. It's just, I knew things were bad with Kinzo, but I didn't know they were that bad. And if no one else, I'm going to talk about the Ninth Twilight.
Oh, something real quick that I wanted to bring up. Battler asked for the measurements of Genji, and after learning that his Genji does not want those measurements anymore, and that is the second gilf.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So this is right before the Ninth Twilight. Battler is fucking wasted off of his ass in the the dining hall because he's been banished from the safe room that Rosa has with Maria. And he's just fucking totally boozing it up. He hears a knock at the door. He says, hey, if you're the witch, tell me your tit size. Ah! And then Genji's like, it's me, sir.
Battler, it is I.
It is I, Genji. And Battler is just and then Battler's just oh, well, then I don't want your tit size. Which, yeah, it's just unforgivable.
One more stupid fucking thing is Battler's hanging out with Genji, and Genji's like, so, want to go up to Kinzo's office and stuff? And he's like, I'm fucking slosh. This is all stupid as shit. I hate everyone, but I'm not smart enough to give up. And Genji just internally thinks to himself, oh my god, it's like looking in a mirror. It's the master. I can't fucking believe it.
Just
Kinzo?
like Kinzo. God. That's happened a few times. I wonder what's going on with that.
Doesn't Beatrice say that at some point? In the first one?
Something like that. And then even the family members are kind of yeah, you remind me of Dad when, he was younger or something. Genji says it. I mean, obviously they're both wearing white suits. There's these weird kind of parallels between Kinzo and Battler, which you could say as Battler as the person denying Beatrice versus Kinzo as the person who brought Beatrice into the world in the first place, sort of. There's some kind of duality or some kind of contrast going on there, maybe. But yeah, the Ninth Twilight happens, the clock strikes midnight, and just like the first game, the witch wins by default. All the family members are torn to pieces by the goat. Beatrice makes Battler put on...
nothing.
No, well, she makes him put on nothing, and she makes him dress her. And it's this whole, you want to talk about this one being gross, I guess. Beatrice is a very, very...
She's a very horny person.
She won't stop talking about getting people to kiss her feet. The entire fucking time. It's okay, ma'am, I understand. I get this from you. And that's kind of the end of the game.
Bernie pulls us aside and is just that was a little rough, not gonna lie. Hang in there, champ. Nipa.
And then Lambda Delta, who showed up specifically to go against Burkcastle, was I do kind of feel bad about that one, though.
she's Tsundora. They missay Tsundere.
Can I ask a question to the group?
Yes.
What do you all think is the distinction between Battler in the story and Battler in the Tea Party room?
I kind of feel like I have to recuse myself from this one.
Okay.
Jen, could you give us the full spoiler version of that answer, please?
Please do not give me the full spoiler.
There appears to be some... I'm trying to talk only from where we are in the story, but there is some kind of... The game between Battler and Beatrice is compared to chess a lot. Beatrice even calls, in the first Twilight, before they establish the Red Truth, Beatrice calls perpetual check. So maybe one way we could think about it is...
I think I got it.
Yeah, please.
I think chess is definitely the right way to think about it, of course. But the way to think about it is more or less the story is going on autopilot, but Battler can take a turn as Battler, and presumably Beatrice takes a turn on her end as Beatrice. That's why we get like the letter from Beatrice with the other keys in it, specifically because she predicted Battler's next move. Another thing that I really saw as a big chess thing between them is a very manipulative thing that Beatrice does after after Kanon and Jessica are killed, where their ghosts are sobbing around the room going, "Oh, how could they suspect you? It's impossible," which forces Battler into making the move of proving that it wasn't Kanon, which eliminates the obvious guess, which means you really have to dig deep to figure out who else it could be, which is presumably Gohda.
Mm-hmm. Presumably.
Who sucks.
It's very the theater major in me showing, sorry everybody, but it's very Shakespearean too, where you have like or you know, to talk about presentational realities, like you have the reality of everyone is in this room trying to, you know, figure out this murder, and then on this sort of higher plane of existence, but still in the same space, Jessica and Kanon basically have these little like soliloquies like you would have to an audience in a Shakespeare play, where they're just like, "No, you can't suspect Kanon, no," and it's like, yeah, totally, Matt. It's that part is very plainly for the benefit of the reader, not for the benefit of like, you know, these people trying to solve this murder. Which, you know, how much can we understand that as part of the game? How much can we understand that as just like a kind of writerly flourish of Ryukishi? It's very interesting.
That gets at my stew.
Yes, I've got my bowl out here. I would love a helping of the Annabelle stew.
I won't get too into it, because I have liked all of the discussion. I haven't felt grumpy or surly so far, but it just, the thing that I keep coming back to as someone who doesn't believe in mysteries or trying to figure out a story as they happen, who really takes stories at face value and like just slurps up what I'm seeing. Though I did like all of the tools that we were given this time. I did figure one mystery out myself and tell Jenn about it preemptively, and then it happened, and then I was so disappointed that it was true. I was just totally dejected. Is that like what is won by solving the riddle, by like figuring out that magic isn't real? And everything that happened in all of these stories is fake, and they're just real murders where everyone dies, and that's the end of it. And that's the long and short of it, is that some petty, greedy human was killing other people. You know, like what is gained by solving
right.
that? And like what's gained by the gotcha of like parsing, you know, reading these stories and then combing through them, you know, finally to pick out every little weird bit or everything that doesn't add up, when there's like so much cool shit happening all the time. Like I love the fight cutscene with Kanon, where he's zipping and zopping around and there's cool weird fight music and everything. I like that. I like how calm Shannon is in the face of Beatrice's absolute like evil. I think that's like a beautiful moment of character development for her that fits in with the character of the rest of the arc. You know, I feel like when things get into this thing where it's like, where you're taken in by the Twilights and the murder mystery of it all, whether it's Beatrice or not doing it, it's like, what about the wonder of the story, you know? Is it really just like 70,000 words of smoke and mirrors, or is there like merit to the things that are happening, regardless of whether magic is quote-unquote real or not? Like, is that what matters? I understand that that's what the crux of the story is this battle between whether magic is real or not, so it's great to talk about if magic isn't real, like in Beatrice versus Battler in the meta story, which is just its own thing. We are sort of going on that assumption now. But like, I think about Rosa and Maria, and how Maria, like, her knowledge of magic, of these magic seals on the doors, of the magic charms that ostensibly protect people, of like knowing about Beatrice, of knowing the epitaph, all of these things are actually super useful, and she's like just giving this information away for free to people. But the whole time, Rosa is berating her for that magic really aggressively, like really actively. In this one, it's like she's only talking about it a little. She's talking about Halloween, and then Rosa flies off the handle and just beats the shit out of her. And it's like, if we don't like when Rosa is crushing her dreams about magic being real, then like, how is that different than us like crushing the story's dreams of magic being real? You know, like, isn't it fun for the magic to be real too, even if it's not really real, even if it's a whole hallucination? Like, is the point to fight it, or do you take some of the fake with some of the real? What, where do you come at from it? So these are just all the thoughts that are simmering in me. Is like, the magic is the fun, like I could sit through and comb, and actually a lot of the things that y'all are saying are super convincing. Like, oh, I guess it could have just been Gohda just kills the both of them and dumps Kanon out the window and locks it again. Great. But like, that's so sad and flat. Isn't it more fun this other way where he dies valiantly saving Jessica? And what's the harm in believing that? That's sort of my overarching stance.
No, I think that's
beautiful, actually.
Very well put, I think. Yeah, well, the to talk about it in terms of the game between Battler and Beatrice. For Battler, proving that Beatrice doesn't exist has some sort of like retributive quality or purpose to him, like to avenge his family who, he is seeing crushed and killed over and over by Beatrice, to prove that she's no one. Like, there's some amount of that for him.
Then if he proves it wasn't her, then it's someone he frickin' knows, right? And
well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing that damns him in this particular game, is that he's not willing to suspect anyone that he knows.
I would actually suspect that in the next episode, we're going to see Beatrice put Battler in a situation where he witnesses a family member of his do something so evil that it makes him have no choice but to suspect them. Maybe not of the murder, but just to at least open his mind to the thought of, maybe my family did do this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit.
Oh, fuck.
There are many moves within the witch's toolbox.
I wouldn't trust that, because Beatrice is a cheat.
You wouldn't trust if this game walked up to you and handed you $100, Izzy.
No, I fucking wouldn't. Okay, let's play in the space of the game.
You actively won't do
Shut
that.
up.
Yeah, you
Shut
refuse.
Up. Shut up for just 1 second. Beatrice is cheating. Beatrice is not playing fair.
Oh, that's all.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Noted.
so this is my next question. It's about this. When in episode 1 there was a certain point, it was after the gazebo scene, where it gave us like the roll call picture of where
everybody
is. And what they
is.
were doing.
Yeah.
I believed going in episode 2 that it was going to pick up when the pieces are set, and then we'd see a different chain of events. But we picked up earlier than that. We saw a bunch of stuff happen that at first I was like, oh, this is just different perspectives informing what happened. But these things changed what happened. And at a certain point during this stuff, Beatrice then says, okay, the pieces are in place, let's get going. But it's not, Battler comes at it from this perspective, and I guess maybe this is Battler's fault, that they're playing chess. And so the pieces are always going to start in the same place every time. But Beatrice wiggles her fingers and says, okay, Battler, the pieces are set, right? But she changed where all of them were.
And then she plays a draw 4 card from Uno.
This gets at the one game mechanic thing that I do really love and really love to engage with, which is the fucking witch's tips from Burncastle and now the one from Lambda Delta, which is like the only way that I have been engaging with this game from a mystery solving capacity, because I think Burncastle's tip in the first question mark tea party that she tells the viewer, like looking at us point blank through the fourth wall, is like, the purpose of this game was for you to try to figure out what moves Beatrice has. Like, Battler obviously does not know shit. Like, the whole family, you can't possibly understand what's happening with the murder. But, like, you need to be thinking about, like, what moves does Beatrice have? Don't think of this in terms of real shit. Think of this in terms of what Beatrice can do. And then in the second one with Lambda Delta's tip is Beatrice is really good at messing around, especially when she's almost won, but she's good at like putting too much information out there, which Burncastle, who's the stand-in for like our narrative point of view, has a hard time parsing. So look out for like a lot of frickin' noise in your story. So I haven't really been engaging with like the moment to moment what's happening in the Twilights, but I have been thinking a lot about that. Like, what extra noise is Beatrice putting out into the story? And what are Beatrice's moves? And Izzy, I think you were saying like exactly that. And that's one of the tips from Burncastle. So I think it's cool that you reached out.
Yeah. It's something that's brought up kind of obliquely by Kyrie and then Maria later to Battler. This possibility that what if the witch has moves that we don't have as people? You know, what if Beatrice secretly, she can move her knight like a rook, or she can, you know, take her bishop and just place it entirely on the backside of your side of the board because she is a witch and because she has, you know, because she has these powers and this ability to play this game in a way that humans do not. Yeah, is something that it's brought up a couple times, but nobody's really made any headway on that line of reasoning. It's just something that's been dropped here and there around the narrative. Something to chew on.
In reviewing the plot, I have been chewing on it. I'm like, okay, so like what is too much information? Like where does Beatrice get extra goofy with it? And there's a million weird things happening at once, and like what is the core of what's happening there? That's what I'm trying to take away from it.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back to this theme of the presented and the hidden, you know, the real or not the real, you know, I'm trying to stay away from true and false, but the thing you tell everyone and then the thing you don't tell everyone. It's all tied up in itself.
Oh my god, it's in the plot, it's in the mechanics, it's in the meta. It's kind of a good.
Maybe Umineko is a well-written book. It's what I'm trying to slowly bring everybody around.
The book isn't real.
Okay.
I swear I read it. There's a lot of time in my Steam games file for it.
I swear to God, by the end of the next episode of this podcast, Izzy's going to go, I don't know any of you. Computers aren't real.
Computers aren't real. We're free. I'm finally.
This is what we're all going. Well, that's pretty much Turn of the Golden Witch. All in all, a really great introduction to the game between Battler and Beatrice, and the ways you can think about it, the ways you can't think about it, ways of approaching it, ways of not approaching it, and also just like a really compelling story about people living in this fucked up circumstance that is the Ushiromiya family and how they do and don't succumb to those circumstances. On a reread, I think this book is even better than the first time I read it. Definitely up there. Any final thoughts before we sign off here?
The last thing that Burncastle says to us is, just to be clear, you gotta keep going, don't give up. Witches aren't real, magic isn't real. Ippa. And I'm like, oh shit, that is some sort of Rika Furude.
She does.
I will keep going. Like hell, I will ever admit magic is real.
She does say fight on, me nipa, just like Rika does. So Burncastle, Lambda Delta, a little questionable. Burncastle definitely appears to be Rika in some capacity. Just to play to the meta folks for a little bit.
I have to protect Anime Bill Murray.
You will. Anime Bill Murray will protect you.
I just want to say it's a story about love. And I think that's beautiful. Even though everyone dies and it's a total failure in the end, at least someone's talking about it.
Yeah, it's an incredibly dour thing, but like the very last thing that we're left off with in the game proper before we get into the tea parties is this moment between Rosa and Maria where Maria says there is only one mama, and Rosa takes up the gun, attempts to fight back the horde of horrible goat people that are coming back at her, and is redeemed is not the right way, but for a little bit you see Rosa with her head on straight, which is really a note to leave off on this story.
Oh, sorry, one more last thing. I'm really sorry.
One more thing,
last thing.
In this story, we see Rosa is contacted by Beatrice, and she is the one chosen by the Demon's Roulette who survives. I think in the last story, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how it worked out, because I don't think there was a 19th person on the island. But I do think that Rudolph was contacted by Beatrice, and that's why he thought that there was a chance he would die that night. And that's why he told Kyrie, and that's why Kyrie and him survived, and they did everything. Wha-bam.
Okay, he's gonna drop that one in the last 5 minutes of the podcast, huh?
Can I say a last thing?
Yeah, please.
Don't trust the game.
Okay.
It's
Don't believe his lies.
Can I say one last thing?
Yes.
No. Yeah.
The game. It's
Oh.
2021, baby.
And with that, we're going to log out. We are going to log entirely out of this one. Thank you so much, viewer, for joining us through another fun episode of Golden Truths. As always, you can follow us you can follow this podcast on Twitter and Tumblr at Golden Truths Pod. We do have a Tumblr. I have no idea what I'm going to put on it, but it's there. You can find our website, goldentruths.net, and if you have any questions or remarks or just anything at all, you can send that to goldentruthspod@gmail.com. I don't know that we really have time for like a question segment or anything, but I don't know. If you send something there and it's I think it'll spark some interesting discussion. I might try to pepper it into an episode somewhere. Oh, and that
we could do a bonus.
I should say that email address is moderated by me, who knows all about Umineko, so you can send Umineko spoilers there all you want, and I will, of course, filter those out for the good folks here.
I want to see.
No, not allowed. I'm spraying you with my water bottle.
You can't trust Jenn.
It's so important that you send Gohda in a banana hammock.
Don't do that.
No, you can't say that. You can't say that on a podcast because if people listen to this, they're gonna do it.
The people that listen to this, right? Okay, that's a funny one.
You need to show me where he has his one-winged eagle tattoo.
Okay, well, you can send that to Matt at...
That would be I'm Your Paper Pal at Twitter. And on Tumblr, I'm just Your Paper Pal. Somehow, Paper Pal is still not available on Tumblr, despite there not being a blog named that. But what can you do?
We're all dealing with the realness of not being able to get Kanon Tumblr URLs still in the year of our Lord 2021.
Kanon for just me.
Yeah,
what are you
just
talking
for,
about?
Just for you. No, KANON.tumblr.com.
Yeah.
Kanon URLs.
We know you have that.
SAS.
I wish. Izzy?
Hi, you can find me at twitch.tv/IzzyTimestream. You can also find me literally anywhere with that. It's my new thing. Go check me out. I game and chill.
Mondays and Tuesdays.
And Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST.
You can follow me at Kebs with 4 B's. That's KEBBBBS on Twitter. Or at Daihenshin, DAIHENSHIN on Tumblr, if for some reason you also still have a Tumblr this point in your life. And you can find Anna in her wonderful stew that she has created.
I'm not in the stew. I'm cooking.
You can find Anna in the kitchen.
It's too late. I'm in the stew.
Thanks, Burger King.
Happy Mario Day.
You can't say that. People can't know when we're doing this. This is gonna go up in like August or whenever I finish editing it.
Happy Agio Day.
Just bleep out Matt's entire audio.
I'm going to bleep
from point 1 to point now.
I'm bleeping everything out except the times we say the word Beatrice. It's the only thing you need to know about this fucking goddamn series.
Oh no, I can hear the ending music.
It's coming up while I remember my real sign-off.
Isn't real.
Literally.
This music isn't real.
Stop! I swear to God, I'm trying to do my sign-off. Sleep peacefully, my beloved witch, Beatrice. Okay, now we're taking a break, and I'm going to refill my tea.
Yay.
To the toilet.
Yeah, everybody rinse yourselves out. And
I didn't like that.
Where?
I
Right
didn't
back.
like that.
Hold on.
Jenn, you're fired.
She sucks. And she's mean to everyone. And she's a bad shot. And she is not smart or cool or sexy. And she doesn't flirt with the other moms. So
Yeah.
basically she's got nothing going for her.
Don't like her.
Alright, so I think once we start back up, I think that's going to be the time for me to put down my...
I'm so ready. I'm earnestly excited. I want to hear how magic is still fake. I can't
You're
wait
gonna
to
be
know.
mad.
I can't wait to know. Yes, but I'm not gonna be loud and indignant about it. It's gonna be so juicy. I'm gonna be over here simmering.
All right, if you say so. So I kind of want to get it out before we start going into the Twilights because it's going to frame pretty much everything I do from here on.
Perfect. Yes. No. You will have the floor. That's. I can't wait. Can't wait.
Man. But anyway, yeah, magic's not real.
How where did those cookies go? She feeding the cookies to the air?
Well,
Air
there are no
cookies?
seagulls.
Oh. And
I have
okay,
answers.
okay.
And you're going,
okay.
If I can't play my hand before Jenn is back, otherwise
I'm
you're
sweating.
gonna be like,
I'm sweating
yeah.
already. I'm on the ropes with Beatrice nervous cackling emoji. Where is it?
How's everyone doing?
All
I'm
right.
doing good. I'm rejuvenating.
That was some great music choice of E1 M1 from Doom.
Has everyone
I
watched
don't
this
think
taco
it's-
circle?
I don't think it's important to bring up in the podcast, but I like the achievement that you get during Rose's final confrontation, which is just like, oh yeah, she's doing a Samurai Warriors game. Like, yeah.
Oh
buddy.
yeah, it's like it's like Rosa Muso or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
it's good.
So, I was talking to Anna and Izzy, and I
There's
kind
two
of want to
people.
go.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go into my thing before we continue on to once we hit the Twilights and everything. I kind of need to have my hand played so that
Your thing all
we
laid
don't have
out.
to go over
Okay,
it. Yeah.
okay, sure. Well, we're about to do like the game, so that's a very fitting place to put it. Has everyone watched this taco circulation video?
No.
Yes, the ancient ass meme, that fucking song.
Okay, everyone has to watch it before we can continue. It's
What is
important.
that song?
It's
called?
crashed
Red
my
Eye
computer.
Circulation from that whatever anime. I don't know the name of the anime.
Damn it.
Yeah,
The bass drop was not quite juicy enough for me in this video, but that's okay.
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Hey,
I
I'm watching
appreciated it
now.
on the grounds of it being a Doritos Locos.
Yeah, the
taco.
Doritos. Yeah, the classic. Doing it and doing it and doing it well.
In going through my... Why can you quote that? In going through my screenshots folder, the very first screenshot I ever took of Umi Neko is of this line.
Tell me about it, sir.
And Jenn, is there gender here?
I can only speak for myself, but my entire experience of gender is it'd be easier to find clothes if I shrunk a little. Fucking
Yes.
no one carries 32 size women pants.
I'm back. Your Doritos video crashed my computer for a second.
Ah! Wait, oh, is the recording still going?
Recording's still going.
Oh, God, you're fucking giving me a heart attack.
I've had a few scary calls this episode where it's just like, oh, there goes everyone's voices.
I've had some internet funny business too, but all my
Okay, as long as
audacies are good.
as long as that's trail still going along and you still see that waveform coming out, we're fucking entirely Gucci.
Waveform.
Yep.
Ugh, did you just say Gucci?
Or
Yeah.
entirely Prada. Is that better, Anna?
We're Gucci.
Are you wearing the Beatrice dress? Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. Oh,
Ooh,
gosh.
I'd love to wear Beatrice's dress though.
There's cosplay outfitters out there who can totally hook
Get
you
in
up.
line.
Yeah.
They won't
We
even
go-
let me fuck it.
We go to the next anime convention we can all go to safely, and we are all wearing the Beatrice dress. Every single
Okay.
one of us.
So
I call
episode
the
one,
Beatrice.
we have Beatrice. We see Beatrice in the dress. Episode 2, we have a new outfit for Beatrice.
Oh
we-
yeah, we
If we get a new outfit every ep, then
hot new Beatrice fits.
Fucking Beatrice.
New Beato just dropped.
When?
God. God. Okay.
Welcome back to
Take a-
Golden Truths, a new
Wait,
Neko
I'm
podcast.
I'm taking a sip of my tea.
That's okay. Matt's the witch of communication now. Because
You
he
can be
believes
a
in
witch of-
magic.
I'm the wizard of talking.
A wizard. I love the word wizard.